I'm Catherine and the Universe, and I'm starting my YouTube channel today. I will be honest, I'm not a big social media person. I'm a really terrible millennial. I like to call people over the phone. I hit the little microphone when I text, and I'll be like, okay, I will be there at 5 p.m. And I hit send because I have like short thumbs and I'm awkward. I'm not a big texter. And so, um, not a great millennial, but hey, I love me. And I'm old school, so I feel like there's some cool hidden talents in there. But anyways, YouTube and social media, not really my forte, but I felt like I wanted to shed a little light on the current situation and the importance of perspective right now. And I felt like if the number one Netflix streaming show right now and series is about who has the biggest exotic cat collection and who has an even bigger ego, I felt like I might have a chance on YouTube. So here I am. All right, so I'm really here to share some insight into the spiritual realm and world and how you can apply that in everyday life. I really wanted to focus on how I think this whole collective consciousness we're in and the energy we're in right now is bringing us back to basic. It is really flipping the script on our perspective. And I think that it's important right now to be the peace within chaos. And I'm going to kind of talk about my own personal life and how I feel this is. Honestly, I think this is a time to be prepared, but not paranoid, not panicked. I feel like as humankind, we've been through worse as humans. We've gotten past this. Let's be kind to ourselves and each other right now too. The basics that I see with this whole situation we're in now, that it's kind of like, come on guys, is we have the internet. If this would have happened 30 years ago in 1990, you would have had to call each other on landlines. You probably didn't even have a car phone at that point. You didn't have a cell phone, most likely. So the idea of everyone feeling so isolated and distant when we have access to these wonderful tools to connect and put everything in perspective. Come on, we have a lot going in this time and era now that we didn't even 30 years ago. So let's be grateful for that, and let's realize that being cooped up in a house or an apartment or whatever for 30 days, if you are in a situation or you have everything to meet your needs, you are so lucky right now. I really feel like that's something where I know the reality is a lot of people do not, and people are worried about concerns about living and shelter, but it's also like, if your biggest concern is what you're going to watch on a streaming service for television, or how many video calls you can line up back to back and mimic a social life, I would say to go within right now. Why is that a crisis to you? Why is that a concern? I think legitimately being worried or coming to your family that you love who may have health issues or are predisposed with their immune systems, that's one thing. Worrying about if your landlord will adhere to the current climate and what they are supposed to do with evictions and stalling that because, everybody's out of work nearly. I think that's another thing where, you're allowed to worry about that. But I think that a lot of people who are struggling right now, it's kind of almost an eye roll to me, because the ones I'm hearing complaining are like, what am I going to watch on Netflix? What am I going to watch on Hulu? I can't go to the bar. And it's kind of like, at the end of the day, wow, what a beautiful life you have to have that be your concern. I would love to have the abundance you do to do that, but I don't, and I'm okay with it, because it's perspective. I think too with this, I look at my own family, my great grandfather who immigrated to the United States probably over 100 years ago, from what I've been told. We have a lot of orphans in my family and some adoptees, so it's kind of like there's some big question marks over it, and there's some things that have been lost in translation. So it's like a fun guess who you are thing, kind of like life. Whoa. But anyways, I think it's my great great grandfather he came over from Ellis Island, or maybe a great great uncle. Someone in my family at one point came over from Czechoslovakia in what I think were the early 1900s, and they had to leave one of the sons at home because he was quarantined. So picture this: you come to the United States with your wife and like three out of your four kids, and you leave the one at home who's like 12 at home in his own country. And then he went back to go get him. And this is at a time where there were not phone lines at that time. I know that. So it may have been earlier than 1920s, 1900s, late 1800s. Anyways, so like you wrote letters then. You would have to take your pen and put it on the paper and write a letter and hope the person you were writing to got it. So it's also kind of like, I look at my ancestors and I don't know the full, the actual details of the story. Obviously, I'm like wandering all over. Like, I think I know this is what happened in my family. I'm not really sure. But it's like, okay, so they wrote, his wife and the kids, they wrote a letter like, hey, where are you at? We're hanging out. We're at this place called Cleveland, Ohio. We've immigrated. We've become settled. We'd love to have you and our son. What's going on? It was obviously more heartfelt and eloquent, but I mean, like, people now, they're like, oh, it's been an hour and they didn't text back. Well, like, it was at the time for my relatives, it was like 6 or 9 months, and they haven't shown up in the country yet. It's time to write a letter now. Like, so I think too, this is really leading us as people to why are we so reliant, I think, and emotionally on each other for that happiness. And really, what is happiness? Does the person with the most toilet paper in their basement win at the end of life? I really don't want that to be my legacy. Like, I'm thinking about like I want to be known as an artist and a healer and somebody who inspires people. And I feel like if I end up eventually moving to like a little cabin, tiny house, whatever, I can most certainly still do those things. Artist, healer, a friend, maybe a partner if I found the right person. I'm still looking for that perfect blend of mountain man, progressive, earthy dude who's got a nerdy. I'm picky. So, dog mom. I'm a dog mom. I have a little pug back there. We're going to let him chill, though. His name's Captain. So, Captain's mom. My whole thing is, though, at what point did we shift to saying, like, we need this constant text reply? I can't tell you how many people I've just not texted right away, because I know if I text them immediately, it's going to be this constant back and forth. And it's like, I got to work. I got to get things done. I have my own unique identity, and I put myself around people that have the same. And so this happens a lot with dating. I'll be at work or I'll be doing work. I work from home frequently in my new work. And so a guy will be like, well, you haven't texted back and it's been 4 hours. I was like, yes, I was on a 2.5 hour call with a client and I was coordinating another meeting. I didn't have time to reply to your what are you doing text, which is YWD, because I was working. And it's, this is not a way to live, and constantly waiting for that text back to start your life and get into your purpose. I know we're all worth a lot more than toilet paper. Also in my family, I don't know if he ever came back to the U.S. I want to say from how the story went, he stayed over in Czechoslovakia at the time. It was Czechoslovakia at the time. See, that country's been split since. So, yeah. But anyways, it's kind of like he stayed, but they did get some kind of letter or whatnot that he was okay with the son. And, I don't know how immigration was then. It was, who knows? But, my whole point is like they waited for that letter. And I think I look at friends and loved ones that have survived very serious terminal diagnoses. And the thing that they all have is they treat it as an opinion. So, if you have something like stage 4 cancer, you're told you have X time to live. That's one perspective. And I mean, I've just seen I'm not a doctor, I'm not, but I've seen over my lifetime the most inspiring people and the people that have persevered and gone through these things are the people that have looked and said, I want to live to see my sister get married, my brother graduate high school, my grandfather in his grandmother's 50th wedding anniversary, or my partner graduate from whatever program, or I want to do this. And so when you look at it that way, and what I've realized is, I think with the power of manifestation and law of attraction and applying that, you really have a lot more power than you think. And I think if you take what is going on in news and hearsay, because I feel like the way we're going right now as a nation and collective consciousness is learning to look within for truth and being intentional about who we surround ourselves with and seek out for guidance. And I think when you start doing that, a lot of the noise cancels itself. You pick up people of your own vibration. But my whole point with this perspective is, if it goes back to that old school, be the change you want to see in the world, and things like, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And, so I think it's basically, we really have to be that peace within chaos right now. I am incredibly grateful. I have emergency savings. I am resourceful as hell. I consider myself resilient. But this is about the 7th time in my lifetime I've been laid off, and about the 5th time I've been laid off with no source of income and unemployment. And I've lived extremely humbly. I graduated in the beginning of the recession. So for me, a layoff's like, oh, this sucks. All right, back to the drawing board. Back to the drawing board is what it is for me. It's not anything on my character or anything on my, who I am as a person or purpose. It's that my clients don't have any money to pay me right now, and they have bigger problems because most of my clients were in China and in Europe and many in Italy. And I really, to say, oh, don't you have any technical documents you want me to edit right now? No, come on. I'm a real person. They have bigger things they're working through in their life right now. So I think that's where a lot of that comes in perspective. I've also been through 2 serious car accidents where I had almost no money. I was barely able to work because I was going to physical therapy, pain management, and outpatient treatments over the course of a year. And I learned very quickly who my real friends were. And I learned who loves me and adores me. And I learned who only wants to be there when I want to go to the bar or want to do something fun. And if you're ever in that kind of situation, you will learn very quickly who has your best interest at heart. And I think too, the thing was, during that time, I really wanted companionship, and then I lost, I think, some people because the people I was choosing to spend what little time and energy I had with juggling, trying to keep a job and trying to heal physically, emotionally, and mentally, spiritually through this, literally like this explosion of getting hit by cars. I was rear-ended by a Mack truck and an SUV not even a year later. I was like, oh, I only have another, 3 months of physical therapy and pain management. No, it's like another 6. So anyways, my whole point is, in a way, I'm grateful because I know how strong I am, and I know that it is more important for me to have allies and we can support each other and love each other and approach each other from a healthy heart space than a place of convenience. So I think this has been kind of hard for people that haven't really had a chance or taken the time to sit with themselves and say, is this a bond of convenience or really a bond of love and compassion? And so I think we need to be that peace for each other, but also respect boundaries and taking the time and space to care for ourselves as individuals. And I just wanted to share one of my favorite pieces of jewelry I have that helps me kind of remind myself to take peace and be the peace in times of chaos. So I have this Buddha ring. I'm going to take it off and show you all. It was my great uncle's, and I'll show you Buddha. He's a Buddha face. He's a tiger's eye. He's got these like cool, I don't know if it's gold plated, whatever, Buddha ring. Gold plated sides ring. I like to wear them on my middle finger too because I used to work in downtown Cleveland, and when I would work overtime, I'd be like, oh, there could be somebody shady as I'm catching the bus or driving out. And I would joke, like, they didn't allow brass knuckles in the building. It was a federal building, and so I would always be like, well, you get a Buddha to the face. Too much information, maybe. All right, so being the peace within chaos on a different note. Please don't punch anyone with a Buddha ring unless you're purely doing it in physical defense. I did that, if somebody was trying to mug me. Buddha to the face. I'm the peace within chaos. Anyways, my whole point with this is my grandfather, my great uncle, was stationed in Japan in the Second World War, and he got this ring in Japan. It's literally a Buddha face. And, I look at a lot of my dad's side of the family, my great uncle, my paternal grandfather and grandmother, tough as nails, but really still had a really loving, tender heart. All had what at the time they would call shell shock, what we see now as PTSD, very normal reaction to a traumatic event. And so, I think in the midst of this war, I think he probably felt how important it was to have whatever it was to ground him and stay true to that peace. And it was the Buddha ring probably and whatever else. But I think now it is more crucial than ever to be intentional about who we communicate with, who we surround ourselves with. I think if you have the luxury of having multiple bedrooms in your house or your own room, and you have a partner or a housemate that's rubbing you the wrong way, taking time to retreat into your room, your space, respect those boundaries is really important. And come to each other with a place of compassion and love, and I think to be that peace. We don't need more chaos. We have plenty of that. You can turn on the news if that's your thing, but it's not really mine. So I think it's important to be informed, but not to live in that energy of chaos, not to become it. Remain the peace, because at the end of the day, it's just, you don't want to continue to contribute to that problem, even if the way you're doing that is, watching the news constantly or kind of touting your privilege of your biggest problem being, what do I watch on Netflix? I've already gone through 4 seasons of shows and series. What's next? There are a lot of people that would love to have that problem and don't have the luxury you do. So let's be grateful. Let's be kind to each other. Let's be the peace in the chaos. Let's breathe. Let's just stay present, because the giving into the chaos, there's no benefit from that. And acting from a place of fear and worry and panic is probably the most detrimental thing you can do. So act from a place of love, compassion, realizing how resilient and powerful you are. And if you can and you're able to, with your neighbors and your loved ones, celebrating that too and meeting them with the same energy. Again, I'm Catherine in the universe. Stay tuned. I'm going to be sharing a lot more on my channel, and thank you for joining me. Bye.